Bobi Wine Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert end of year 2024 message tasks Museveni Yoweri Kaguta General to take his son Muhoozi Kainerugaba for Rehab.
2024 has been a year of trials, of challenges, and of lessons. We've experienced a lot, we've learned a lot, but also 2024 has revealed a lot to us as Ugandans. I'll very briefly talk about the main events of 2024, or what shook the nation most. Of course, first and foremost is the corruption that continues to, mess up our country, that continues to be a cancer in our country. We continue to see one scandal after another in Uganda, most especially in the parliament, regrettably so. We saw the Speaker of Parliament, Madam Anita Among, pocketing billions of taxpayers' money, of course, with protection from the state. We talked about this, but for a long time they dismissed us as just opposition talk, as political talk, until the young people of Uganda, branded as tribeless, partyless, took to the streets. They organized the march to Parliament in protest to the gross corruption that was going on under the watch of Madam Anita Among. You saw the young people protesting. Many of them were jailed, arrested, tortured. Sadly, some of our young people were sodomized in custody. This was a shameful thing that the regime has tried so much to sweep under the carpet, but until we expose it, it's only when it's going to be stopped. Many young people were kept in jail as a way to discourage them from ever standing up against corruption. One of our comrades, Sammy of the Mighty Family, was the last one to be released on that count. On an even more sad note, the National Unity Platform was very disappointed to learn that even our then Deputy President was involved in this corruption scandal, this money heist at Parliament. We were disappointed to learn that he sat together with other parliamentary commissioners and awarded himself 500 million, which they claimed that it was a retirement benefit. Even if he gave himself that money, only 11 months in office, he had not even made a year. Anyway, as a National Unity Platform, we had to stand firm. So we called him out on that. We asked him to return the taxpayers' money, apologize, and resign his position at the commission. As expected, the regime protected him, and as we speak, he is still in the parliamentary commission, even when the party that appointed him to go there recalled his name. But we do what we can do against the corruption until we have the full capacity to weed it out. We've continued in 2024 to see a worrying state of our economy. We've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of young people daily leaving our country, jumping on planes to go to Arab countries, searching for greener pastures. We see lines and lines of very young boys and girls going to slave in unknown lands. And we've constantly seen and heard stories of torture, stories of dehumanization of our people. Unfortunately, there are reports of very, very minimal or zero assistance from our embassies in these countries. Of course, because our embassies have been reduced to spy agencies of the regime internationally. One of the most embarrassing, one of the most embarrassing things that we saw this year was the flawed national census. Uganda carried out a national census this year, but we saw reports from the field that many enumerators were not paid, many gadgets were malfunctional, many citizens, a huge chunk of citizens, were not even counted. And at the end, when the final report came, we saw glaring inaccuracies and questionable statistics. Some communities of Uganda were shocked to be informed that they only reduced in the past 10 years. They only died. They did not procreate. They did not produce any children. Of course, it was very embarrassing, but so are the goings on in Uganda. Moreover, this became even more embarrassing because they had a whole decade to prepare, a whole 10 years to prepare, and that is what would come out. Goes further to expose the incompetencies of this regime. So incompetent to carry out such a national project upon which so much planning of the nation is based, and then it comes out inaccurate. Very, very limited reflection of what the reality is within the country. This year, 2024, we continue to see the presence of the Ugandan military in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We all remember that this began in November 2021 under the claim of pursuing ADF rebels. You saw bombs going off in Kampala, and very, very quickly our military was deployed in the Democratic Republic of Congo in November 2021. It's 2024 now, but we have had reports, including a United Nations report accusing Uganda of supporting M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo, of stealing natural resources and minerals from the Congo. Now, this is a UN report. We all should remember that the last time our military went to the Congo, they plundered Congo, stole natural resources, timber and minerals. They raped women and carried out a whole lot of gross human rights violations. And we were dragged to the International Court of Justice. The Ugandan taxpayer was condemned to pay to the tune of 1.2 trillion shillings to the Democratic Republic of Congo. In simple terms, they went, they plundered, we paid, or we are paying. This money that we are condemned to pay, it is you, my fellow Ugandan, and your child and your grandchild that are going to pay. So now we can all imagine what is going to come out of our presence in the Congo right now. If the UN report has claimed that Uganda is involved in plundering Congo again and supporting rebels in a foreign land again, you and I can now imagine what to expect. Fellow citizens, this year we continue to see tragic disasters. And sadly, most of them were avoidable. We saw a garbage slide in Chitezi, where official reports show that more than 30 lives were lost, but on ground, the claims show that many more people died, and some are actually suspected to still be buried under the garbage. The whole village was covered by garbage, and this was a result of mismanagement of garbage. We saw in Chigogwa a fuel tanker exploding and killing. Official reports show us that 11 people died, but on-ground reports show that many more died and others were wounded irreversibly. We saw the landslide in Ulambuli where more than 20 lives were lost. Unfortunately, those that rule over us do not attach the same importance to these lives. We saw Museveni responding to the Kitezi disasters, and they said that they voted badly. We even saw clips of his Prime Minister, Nabanja, making jokes at a scene of a disaster. That is where we are, and that is the kind of leadership that is imposed on us. In 2024, and this is important to remind fellow Ugandans, that our public debt grew to over 97 trillion. Now, this is almost double our national budget. 55 trillion of this money is borrowed from those countries that Museveni calls foreign meddlers. Now, you all can tell the hypocrisy. When he is borrowing money in your name, the money that you are going to pay, he calls them development partners. But when they call him out on abuse of human rights and democracy, he calls them foreign meddlers. That's the hypocrite that rules over us and shows more need and more urgency to get rid of him as soon as we can. We've again seen rising abductions in Uganda. Very unfortunately, we've exported the same nasty habit to even our neighbors in Kenya. We've seen so many abductions. Many of our people are still missing. But the most recent is the abduction of Dr. Kiza Besigye from Kenya. Dr. Besigye and Haji Obejintale from Kenya. They were illegally abducted from Kenya, brought to Uganda against international law, without any, extradition, legal extradition arrangements. They were brought to Kenya and court-martialed. Of course, we continue to condemn that, but condemning it is not enough. We must fight to practically put it to an end. Because now, we, the people that used to export positivity, we are exporting abduction. And the cancer is slowly catching in Kenya. We continue to see people in prison because of their conscience. So many political prisoners are still in prison. The nation was shocked to see 19 of our comrades coerced into accepting crimes they did not commit. Among these is the renowned Olivia Rutaya, who was coerced and told that she either had to plead guilty or die in prison. Because she saw no hope of getting justice, she was cornered to plead guilty. And this includes 18 others to make a total of 19. However, there are those that refused, and these include Kalanzi, Sheriff, they include Machete Yasin, they include Emma Kato and others. We stand with them. We continue to call for their freedom because they did not, like the regime is intending, to force them to accept. We also have many other comrades that are political prisoners that are kept in prison because of bogus claims. People like Bobi Young, people like Muhoozi, and many others. We stand with them and we call for their freedom. I must also mention the selective prosecution. We've seen so many people paid by the regime to hurl obscenities to regime critics. Some of them have even been rewarded by sounding government positions just because they are abusive, they are insulting, and they use nasty, obscene words against the opponents of the regime. But they've been rewarded. But there's a young man called Muhoozi, also known as Madubala. He continues to rot in prison for speaking or for being regarded abusive to the regime. We condemn that. We call for equality. We call for justice for everybody. But most importantly, we call for the joining of hands to remove this immoral and oppressive regime of General Museveni and his fellow thieves. We must save our country. Otherwise, justice won't be served. Those that do wrong will be rewarded, and those that do right will be punished. This year, 2024, we saw Uganda being struck off the countries that are beneficiaries of the African Growth Opportunities Act, the USA AGOA. Uganda was scrapped off, and this was prompted by human rights abuses, by disregard of the rule of law, and all the wrong things that the regime do. What does this mean? This means that more than 6,000 of Uganda's products now can no longer have duty-free access to the world's biggest economy. Yes, it's a loss to Uganda. So it's a blow to this regime as we seek to discredit it further. You saw Museveni sending his son-in-law to go and plead, but it was unsuccessful. We continue to advise him that the best way to plead is to do the right thing, because we live in a global community and we should be judged by similar standards, especially in regards to humanity and the rule of law. This year, our common people continue to suffer, and I'll talk about coffee. Coffee this year was dealt a blow. The regime ignored nationwide protests from farmers and went ahead and scrapped the Uganda Coffee Development Authority and handed its operations to the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, as a result, we all know that over 12 million coffee growers in Uganda are at risk, knowing the incompetencies of the ministries run by Museveni's, henchmen, like you have seen in the Ministry of Agriculture. Coffee, we should note that earned Uganda 4.2 trillion in the financial year that ended in June this year. Now that's a lot of money. And as we have seen in the recent past, that wherever there is money, Museveni will bring his people and try to take over that. We saw that with gold. It's only his family that deals in gold. We saw that with cotton. We saw that with vanilla. And now it is with coffee. You've already seen his family and close allies trying to, monopolize coffee. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, because Museveni wants to control the income of Ugandans, wherever there is money, he wants to control it. Now he is seeking to control coffee at the cost of the citizens. But does he care? Of course he doesn't. That is not all, as if that is not annoying enough. This year, we saw General Museveni appoint his son, the Chief of Defense Forces, the commander of the national military. Now, this, to all that ever doubted, this finally removed doubt, any kind of doubt about Museveni's intention to turn Uganda into a presidential monarch. I've said it many times to fellow Ugandans that if you want to know what is in the mind of the Museveni family, just open Twitter or X and read the tweets of his son, the CDF Not only are they immature or thoughtless, but they are extremely tribalistic. He seems to speak for the Museveni family and informing all and sundry that it's only his tribesmen and women that are full human beings. That we condemn, but like I said, we don't only condemn it, we call upon all Ugandans to stand against this nonsense, because Uganda belongs to all Ugandans, and all Ugandans are equal before and under the law, regardless of their tribe or ethnicity, regardless of their religion, regardless of their gender, regardless of their background. So we condemn the tribalistic tendencies of the Museveni regime as exposed through his son's drunk tweeting. This year, we saw Justice Kisache, Justice of the Supreme Court, run into exile. Now, this is a Justice of the Supreme Court that gave a dissenting judgment in the presidential petition of 2021, but she has since faced persecution, and it was reported recently that her life was in danger and she had to run into exile. Now imagine Justice of the Supreme Court running into exile. This is a stark reminder of the regime's attack on independent institutions and on anybody that this should remind all of us the urgency of freeing this, our country. Many things of disappointing nature happened, but ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you as we close this year that there is hope. There is hope. We see it everywhere. This year we had a nationwide tour amid its challenges, amid its constant interruption by the regime, police and military, amid its tear gas and all that. We had a nationwide tour, and for us what we got was so much courage, so much motivation from the population. The massive welcome that we got from all regions that we visited reminded us that the population is with us. So there is hope, and let us keep the hope alive. This year, I survived another assassination attempt in Bulindo. They hit my leg, I was hospitalized, I moved on crutches, and thanks to the Almighty God, I am now well. That shows you that God is on our side. And when God is on our side, it doesn't matter who is against us. This year, the National Unity Platform opened the School of Leadership. And this year, we passed our first cohort of leaders. So that also continues to remind us that we are taking the right steps in the right direction, and it gives us hope. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we close this year, we salute all of you. To all of you fellow Ugandans here in Uganda and abroad that have stood with us, guided us positively and constructively, criticized us, advised us, we thank you. We salute you. To all those that have had challenges, let us use those challenges to be better. Let us use the lessons and experiences of 2024 to bounce back bigger and better and stronger. Let's go into 2025 determined to make the best out of it and to make it a turning point of our lives and of the political future of our country. I will be speaking to you in the first week of January 2025 to share my insights and thoughts of the new year. But for now, I just want to thank you very much for staying alive, for staying positive, for staying moral, and for staying patriotic. I wish you a very happy 2025, and may God bless all the works of your hands. And may 2025 be a transformative year and a year of turning tables. Thank you very much for God and my country. Gabakata Kawesi, Weyagamba, Bakata Kawesi, Weyagamba.
Yes, thank you. I have two questions. First, you talk about this Muhoozi, and I know you don't have a lot of answer for him, but he's the CDF, so he's whatever he does sometimes matters. Recently, he said that police should shut down any gatherings where him, the past family, and people, senior government officials are being abused. Abuse can be made, being criticized. So I don't know what do you make of him yet, because in the previous election he was one of the he headed the SFC, and it was accused of these abductions and stuff like that. Are you aware? And number two, this year we saw you also talked about seeing political prisoners who are released from prison after they killed. And all of us know that it was a political, they were there for political reasons. And there are still others in prison. Now I want to ask you, and you've said many times, also check the route that the previous after all, it is not a legal matter, it is a political matter. Yes, that's how we done it.
Are you tired of listening to the question? Are you the one who's going to answer them? And maybe you want, unless if you want to make it interactive, which is okay. Okay, thank you, sir. I take your guidance. Thank you, sir. I did not get your name, my brother. Mayanja. Okay. First, Sematimba Bwejire. Eranchide mu Luganda. Sematimba Bwejire ambuuza nti njogera ki ku ttemu ery'emmundu erigenda mu maaso mu Uganda. Ffenna tumanyi nti ku ssente eziteekebwa mu byokwerinda oba ezigamba eziteekebwa mu byokwerinda, byokwerinda bisinga okutwala ssente z'omusolo mu budget. Naye ekyennaku nti poliisi yava ku mulimu gw'erina okukola ogw'okukuuma bannansi n'ebyabwe n'egy'okunoonyereza ku buzzi bw'emisango. Kati poliisi ezannya byabufuzi. Poliisi eringa armed wing eya NRM. Ensonga lwaki emisango mitono nnyo egyali ginoonyezebwako, tewali infact musango gwa ttemu lya mmundu gwali gunoonyezeddwako ne gutuukibwa ku nfeete. Kuviira ddala ku Bakaweesa, Bakigundu, Bakirumira n'abalala. Lwaki? Kubanga poliisi ya wano omulimu gwekola gwa kuzannya byabufuzi, si gwa kukola mulimu gwayo. Ate ebiseera bingi mwawulira mu Museveni nga baakatta Kaweesi bwe yagamba poliisi erimu kawuukumi. So kiteeberezebwa nti bennyini be beenyigiramu eryo ettemu kubanga be balina emmundu. In English, Sematimba Bwejire, you asked what I say about gun violence. But like I said, gun violence, no gun violence case, no murder case, no shooting case has been investigated to a logical conclusion. Ever since the shootings of Kirumira, Kaweesa, and others. Why? Because our police, other than doing its work, it's more like an armed wing or a coercive wing of the NRM. They do more politics than solving crime. And there's also a strong belief that because they are the people with guns, then they are the ones that are carrying out all this gun violence. because every once in a while, those killed are linked to either criticizing the regime or being against the regime or disagreement with those that disagree with the regime. You've seen many people coming out to cry. You saw one of the regime supporters, Ham, coming out when he had a disagreement with Museveni's son-in-law. Came out and said, I know I might get shot anytime, and he pointed to Museveni's son-in-law that he would be responsible. Maybe that's what saved him. So there's more to look at in that angle. Wengede n'obuuza nti 2025 tuyingidde kugenda kuba mwaka gwa byanfuzi n'ogamba ntunulira ntya embeera era Museveni mwepikira. Embeera y'okulonda bwesembedde 2025 mbadde nga nkiddiŋŋana nga nkunga bannayuganda bonna abalina endowooza eyagala okukyusa eggwanga beenyigire mu bukulembeze. Abasobola okwesimbawo beesimbewo, abatayesimbyewo bawagire abo abeesimbyewo abakiikirira endowooza yaabwe. Era n'enkunganyo naddala abavubuka mwe bansomyeko, mwe banzikiriza mu nsi yange, mwe banyina obuwagizi, nyina abantu b'enkulembera. Bwe muteenyigira mu bukulembeze mujja kulemberwa abantu be munyooma. N'olw'ensonga eyo mubyenyigiremu. Bwe mutabyenyigiramu temutandika kubuuza singa twafunye abakulembeze ababi abatasaana. Nze Museveni mwewulira nze ajja yajja oba ye oba ani. Anyway, nze wendi olw'Abannayuganda naye sinzeka, tekiri ku Kyagulanyi. Bwe tuba nga tusobola okuba n'omuntu abikola tekirina buzibu. Naye ate nga bwe muba mulowooza nze njo bibakolera nange wendi nalo. Nasose mu Luzungu akonyino kada mu Luzungu. Yeah, Sema Timba Wejire, you asked me about the electioneering that is happening next year 2025 and what I think about it, and you also asked if I would be willing to take on Museveni again. I've encouraged people of Uganda, especially young people, to get involved in the politics of their country. All of you that have good thoughts and good intentions for your country, get involved in the politics of your country. You, the young people that are educated and qualified, you, the seniors, the professionals that are educated and qualified, if you don't get involved in politics, then you're going to be governed by your inferiors. So get involved. Whether I am ready and willing to take on Museveni, ask him, is he ready to accept defeat? For me, whenever and wherever there's a role for me in this fight for freedom, it's my humble submission that I'm available. Mayanja, you asked about the so-called factions in political parties, particularly in NUP. Mayanja, we don't have any factions in our party. No, we don't. Don't allow anybody to masquerade as if it's a faction of NUP. No, they are not. We've seen some pretenders that wanted our cards, and we denied them the cards. And now, 5 years later, they are coming and saying they are ending their cooperation with NUP. We've never cooperated with you, my man. So please, don't waste back. Yeah. Secondly, we also have those that went to parliament or to other offices, courtesy of the NUP card. But they sold out to the regime. And the regime is using them to project us as if we have factions in NUP. No, we don't have factions. There are even others who were senior leaders in the NUP, but they got involved in corruption. And we came out very clearly to disassociate ourselves with them. And since then, they have been the symbol of corruption and they are proud to associate with a corrupt regime. Now, those people cannot be representative of NUP. And whenever they show up, don't allow them misrepresenting us. They are not NUP, and they are not factions. In NUP, we don't have factions. There's only one national unity platform. Abanaffe abagenda nga beesoma nti biwayi bya NUP byakutse ku NUP banaye temubakkiriza kubalimba. Wali abo abamu abayagala okwesimbirawo ku kaadi zaffe emyaka 5 egiyise naye ne tutabawa kaadi zaffe kubanga twali tetulesi. Naye kati bajja bagamba bava mu NUP, temubakkiriza balimbalimba. Abalala yes bagenda mu parliament oba mu offices endala nga bagendedde ku tiketi ya NUP, naye bwe baatuuka eyo Museveni n'ababere nga bali mu NUP ne mu kyonoonera emunda. Kyamukisa mulungi twabalabukirira era ne tugamba ensi amazima. So temubakkiriza kubalimbalimba nti kino kiwayi kya NUP. NUP terimu biwayi, NUP eri emu, naye abo bwe twali tuteesiga, abo bwe twazuula nti baali bakolera mulabe, abo be baagula, twavaayo ne tubabuulira amazima nti abo si bannaffe, era temubakkiriza kubalimba nti abo kiwayi kyaffe, si kiwayi kyaffe. National Unity Platform eri emu era akabonero kaffe manvuuli. Mukkiriza abantu bonna bannakigwanyiza kubalimbalimba ba NUP, si ba NUP. Becca, you asked me about Muhoozi's careless talk, more particularly about his recent statement that police should shut down any events that are purported to be critical of either his father or him or his family. Well, to see a person that is occupying the highest office in our military making such a reckless and immoral statement, if Uganda was a functional state, that person would have been dismissed, would have been forced to resign. As soon as he made that statement, he should even be court-martialed because that is illegal. But in Uganda, Museveni thinks he's the law. His son thinks he's above the law. They all think the law is under them. That's why he can say all that nonsense and goes scot-free. That is where we are. That is Uganda under Museveni. I mean, if Uganda has a justice system, if Uganda is under the rule of law, then anybody that commits a crime should be apprehended and prosecuted. But for the son of General Museveni, just because he's son of the president and head of the military, to take his drink and give any careless order, I think it's another sign of not only a failed state, but a rotten state. My advice to General Museveni would be to take his son to Rehab as soon as possible. Kino kankide mu Luganda nti Mwami Becca mbuuzizza njogera ki ku kiragiro kya Mwami Muhoozi kye yatadde ku Twitter nti poliisi erina okulumba olukuŋŋaana lwonna oluvumirira oba olutakkiriziganya na bikolwa bya kitaawe oba ye oba famire ye, era owa poliisi yenna ate abasibe ajja kufuna obuzibu. Ekyo nno kyongera okulaga obwononefu bw'ensi yaffe nti omuntu ali mu ofiisi esingayo okubeera eyawaggulu mu magye gaffe, ate nga amagye kye kitongole oba institution yandibadde esinga okubeera ne discipline. The military is supposed to be the highest disciplined institution, but to see the top leader of the military, okulaba omuntu akulembera amagye ng'avaayo nayogera bw'atyo ebigambo ebimenya amateeka. Singa Uganda ebadde kulemberwa amateeka era nsi etebenkedde, oyo yandibadde yagobeddwa dda ku bukulembeze bw'amagye, yandibadde yasibiddwa nadda naye kubanga Uganda teri mu mateeka kubanga balowooza mu Museveni kitaabwe ye mateeka era bo bali waggulu w'amateeka asobola okukola byonna oba okwogera byonna. Ekyewuunyisa nti abadde nga awamba abantu n'abakolako bikolobero n'agenda bw'atyo. Naye ekyo kyongere tulaga wawe tuli. Kya mukisa mulungi ngera bwe n'abagambye nti Omuganda agamba Bobi wa mwenge alisanga ku mwoyo. Nze nno kye nandi wadde amagezi mu Museveni okukwata mutabani we amutwale mu ddwaliro bamukoleko, otherwise ajja kwongera nnyo okumulabisa. Naye ate ffe kitukolera kubanga kyongera okwanguya okugwa kwa Museveni. Amawanga gonna agagudde, bannakyemalira bonna abagudde. Tunuulira Mobutu Sese Seko, tunuulira Saddam Hussein n'abalala. Ebikolobero by'abatabani baabwe byayamba nnyo okulaga amawanga ago ekigali munda era byayanguya nnyo okugwa kw'abakitaabwe. So mutabani wa Kagutema bamwongere ecupa atwongere zitwiti. Waliwo ambuuziza Becca asked that would I advise those comrades that refuse to plead guilty to the flimsy charges? Do I advise them to plead guilty? No. I don't advise any prisoner to accept a crime they did not commit, because that would be a permanent mark, nasty mark in their record. But I understand those that plead guilty, because prison is not a comfortable place. Ambuzi oba bagira ababasigala mukomera abagaana okukkiriza ebisangosango basobola okubatamba, wagira abakkiriza ebisango ebyo bye batazza. Nedda, si wagira muntu yenna atazza musango okukkiriza oba weetaddeko maaka. Eno regimu eyagala ogiyambe weseeko omusango babeere nga abatakwatira bwereere. Si wagira muntu yenna kwesalira musango gw'atazza. Naye ate sivumirira muntu yenna anyigirizibwa n'amenyeko omugongo n'agamba kale kamale gakkiriza nsobole okuva mukomera nga Olivia Lutayo. N'olw'ensonga eyo okwokusalawo, era Abaganda abafu abali mukomera buli wetubakyalira tubajjukiza nti okwokusalawo kwabwe ffe tubawagira era tuyimirira nabo mu buli mbeera. Naddala abo abasigala ku mulamwa tumanyi nti waliwo abavaayo ne babagula ne babooza obwongo ne babasirwaza ne bafuuka ekyeneena. Naye ffe ba political prisoners baffe tuyimirira nabo mu buli mbeera mu buli kusalawo kwe baba bakoze.
Let's have the last part. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Franklin Tapu. I work with Committee Application. Two questions. We just talked about the 19 who didn't guilty, but there are the 18 members of the NUP who are missing. What is the latest about them, or where are they? Then secondly, just a year to the elections, we have seen a lot of factors in the position. We started with FDC, came to PPC under the wing of the other group. So what does that mean as we go towards the next election? And secondly, is there room for reconciliation if the opportunity arises? Then thirdly, what about the coalition for all the opposition to come together? Are you thinking of all those options for me?
Mr. President, twawulira kunti waliwo kampeni y'okukungaanya obujulizi kutwala pulezidenti y'ekatwasibira mu kkooti y'ensi yonna wamu ne mu palamenti kampeni oyo bituuseebwa. Mr. President, erinnya Charles Mpanga, nkola ne Makumedia TV. President yogedde mu kutalaaga eggwanga kwe tubaddeko oba kwobaddeko n'ekibiina kya National Unity Platform. Abantu we bwayaniriza n'okulaga okuyaayaana n'okulaga nti okyalina amaanyi n'ekibiina kyo. Twasembayo tugenda Nakasongola, poliisi n'etuyimiriza. Omwaka ogujja 2025 bannakasongola n'ebitundu ebirala ebitatuukibwamu basuubire okuddamu okubasalako, okubaliisa ekigambo, oba tugenda ku kirala. Neyaza nnyo Museveni.
Those are the
tukimanyi pulezidenti nti okuyimba kyekitone ekyakulera naye ennaku eziyise emabega twalaba abaali eggulu ewa Jenosali Musale nga ekitone kyabwe akitemerako ettaka nga gw'omu ayise mu kitone kino eky'okuyimba. Nsaba ku ndowoozayo ku bigambo by'omukulu ebyo eri bannabitone.
mwebale nnyo. The missing 18. My brother from the monitor asked me about the missing 18. What are we doing about that? You all remember that General Museveni came out in one of the, and admitted having those people. You remember that Nabanja, Museveni's prime minister, came out and said they have John Bosco Chibalama, and said that Chibalama committed crimes and is in their custody. You remember that in a contradicting statement, the so-called human rights chief, Maria Mwangaja, came out to claim that these people are non-existent. Even when their families brought their passports and their national IDs, she still claimed that they're non-existent. It's clear that these people are there. They are verified. They were owned up. Nabanja owned up Chibalama and all those. We continue to demand for the return of our people. Mchidamu Luganda, kubantu bafe 18 abamisinga Kanata Muhammad Chibalama John Bosco n'abalala, Bambabazi Kawenja n'abalala. Mujjukira nti Museveni mu kwogera kwe yavaayo n'agamba bano abantu yabayina. Nabanja yavaayo Prime Minister Museveni n'akkiriza nti be balina Chibalama bamukwata n'emisango gy'obuyeekera n'ebirala bifaanana bw'ebyo era bamuyina mu kkomera gyabwe. So ffe tugenda mu maaso nga tubanja abantu baffe, tumanyi mubayina, tubaagala era tukunga bannayuganda mugende mu maaso nga mumanja abantu bammwe abaawambibwa, tubaagala oba bafu oba balamu. You ask me about the divisions in parties, especially as we get to 2021. It's not new that every time we are nearing an election, General Museveni invests in his usual divide and rule technique. Unfortunately, we are very many steps ahead of him. So he used taxpayers' money to divide. It is evil money, it is dirty money that divided UPC, dirty money that was used to buy off Mao, the president of UDP, and others. It was that same dirty money that was brought to FDC. It is that same dirty money that was brought to NUP. And also other masqueraders that claim to be former members of NUP. However, we are not called the National Unity Platform for nothing. Our middle name is Unity. Unity of purpose, unity of morality. So much as there's an effort to divide us, they will only divide the unwanted from us. It will only be good riddance. They will only be relieving us of some characters that are a baggage. But as NUP, forward we are moved. Is reconciliation possible? Reconciliation with who? With Museveni? Yeah. No, with the members. Oh, with members who have since moved out of NUP. First, in the National Unity Platform, we stick together on principle, and we part ways on principle. No emotions involved, just principle. We have values, and those values we hold so dear, we exalt, and we don't allow anybody, not even myself, to go around those values. We have a firm anti-corruption principle, and we strictly adhere to it. So those that left the National Unity Platform, and in particular our former Deputy President, we don't have any anger or hatred or enmity, but it's on principle. And we put conditions. And yes, reconciliation is possible. Even now, I want to categorically state that reconciliation is possible if our former Deputy President returns the taxpayers' money of 500 million, apologizes to Ugandans, and resigns from the place that he used to award himself taxpayers' money. Then we shall reconcile. We don't hold any permanent hatred against anybody. As a matter of fact, even Museveni himself, if he stopped killing Ugandans, if he stopped that impunity, we have no problem shaking hands with him. But if he's still doing all those evil things, then we cannot be friends. I hope I'm very clear. How about a coalition? How about a coalition in 2026? We shall have a coalition of the willing. We are willing to work with everybody that pushes for change, that pushes for the end of the Museveni dictatorship and the return of democracy. Anybody and everybody, regardless of their party or political affiliation, we are willing to lock hands with everybody and move forward to a new Uganda. So mu Luganda oyogedde ku njawukana mu bibiina kituufu eyo nkola ya Mwami Museveni buli we tuba nga tusemberedde okulonda afuba okumakinga sure nti akozesa ssente ekyennaku ez'omusolo okwawulayawulamu ebibiina mwakiraba nti data money oba ssente z'ekibi ezayawula DP kuba zezakozesebwa okugula mawo omuzza ku ludda lwa Museveni, ssente za kibi zezakozesebwa okwawulamu FDC, ssente za kibi zezakozesebwa n'okugula abamu ku bannaffe abaali mu kibiina kyaffe n'abo abagenda balimba ensi tiba kibiina kyaffe kubanga we baagalira okuwuddisiza abantu. Naye nga bwe tubagambye twajja tubyetegekedde byonna era ffe tebijja tuyigula ttama. Okwatagana kukyasoboka. Kirungi okitaanyiza nti okwatagana n'abo abali mu kibiina kyaffe kusobokera ddala bulungi nnyo. Tetulina butategeragana mu buntu, tetulina mpalana ya buntu n'abaganda baffe bonna nga kwe kuli n'eyali Deputy President waffe. Tetulina buzibu na butakwatagana naye era tusobolera ddala okuddingana bulungi. Nga bwe twakyogera twateekawo jasa ensonga ebintu bisatu by'aba alina okukola, naye ebyo byonna bw'oba obifunziza alina okufuuka omuntu oyo gwe tweyesiga, alina okufuuka omuntu oyo omwerufu, alina okuddamu n'afuuka omuntu oyo gwe twatunuulira ne tumwesiga nga tumufuula Deputy President, nga tumufuula Leader of Opposition, nga tumufuula Commissioner. Alina okuddamu n'afuuka omuntu oyo kuba kati afuuka muntu mulala. Era kyetaagisa ki ffe okuddamu okumulaba nga bwe twali tumulaba? Ebintu bisatu byalina okukola. Ekisooka kuzzaayo ssente za wa musolo emiliyoni 5 kubanga kyali kikyamu, kyali kya buswavu era kyali kimenya ennono yaffe nga National Unity Platform. Ssente ezo bw'azizzaayo ekyokubiri neyeetondera Abannayuganda kubanga ffenna tusobya nti kyali kikyamu ne tukkiriza ekyamu kyali kikyamu era ne tukyega nti tugenda kiddamu. N'ekyokusatu n'alekulira okuva mu ofiisi eyo eyamuteekebwamu n'agikoleramu ebikyamu. Awo tujja kutandikirawo tukwatagane tuddemu enkolagana yaffe. Naye bwe biba tebikoleddwa then tusigala twegaana ekibi n'abo abakola ekibi. Coalition gusoboka tuli beetefutefu okuba mu mukago gwonna n'abantu kasita ebigendererwa byabwe biba nga biragana mu bikolwa byabwe tibaagala kutaasa Uganda kujjako nakyemalira. Tuli beetegefu okolagana na buli muntu. Batubuuza kampeyini gye twali tukola okuŋŋaanya emikono n'abajulizi nga tutemu Museveni mu kakiiko k'ensi yonna. Emikono twagikuŋŋaanya n'abajulizi ne tubafuna. Era tulinze kkooti ya nsi yonna newankubadde ensi ebadde ekyali mu butabanguko nga bw'olaba entalo ezitiŋŋana buli wamu, naye emikono twagifuna, tulinze bulinzi kadde. You asked us about our campaign to get witnesses on the case that we took to the ICC against Museveni. We got those witnesses and the testimony, and now it's just a matter of time. Thank you. Map media, onatuuka gy'otaatuuse, munaatuuka gye mutaatuuka, tujja kutuukayo yonna. Will we reach where we did not reach? Yes, we will reach. Wagala kisambuziza ekibuuzo ekisembayo. Manyiddwa nga muyimbi, naye industry y'okuyimba ngiraba ntya, era ne mwami Sali Musale teyakoze abayimbi okubaweebuula, nakirabye ntya. Nze ndi artist, ndi muyimbi ate omu ku balungi ennyo, in fact omu ku basinga mu Uganda, naye olw'obutali bwenkanya n'olw'obutiitiizi nga tebagoberedde etteeka lyonna, naye kubanga balina emmundu bagamba Kyagulanyi tugenda kuddamu kuyimba kubanga batiitiizi. Bayimbi bannange basooka ne balaba obutali bwenkanya obwo, naye olw'okubanga basinga emitima gyabwe giri mu lubuto ne basirika obutali bwenkanya obwo ne bugenda mu maaso. Ndi artist naye sobola kweyagalira mulimu gwange, ate bayimbi bannange abalala bo ekyo tebakiraba, tebaagala kyogera nako, tebaagala kwogera ku butali bwenkanya obwo. Newankubadde basoma eddiini, newankubadde ku Sande bagenda ne basaba Lwokutaano ne bagenda miziki, tebaagala kwogera ku obwo obutali bwenkanya. Munnaffe, muyimbi munnaffe atulugunyizibwa, anyigirizibwa, yalemesebwa okukola omulimu gwe. Naye abo bennyini abanyigiriza muyimbi munnaabwe babayita ne babawayo akasente ne babakyusa obwongo ne babagamba ffe tuli wano kutumbula kisaawe kya kuyimba. Abantu be bamu nga baali baleeseeko amateeka ne bagateekawo ne bagamba omuyimbi yonna okuyimba oluyimba ayina kusooka kuleeta script ye, oba okufulumya oluyimba minisita ayina kulusiima n'agamba luno luyite luno teruyita. Ekyobumenyi bw'amateeka ne kubanga baba bagula ne basirika. Mwalabako gye buvuddeko ti gavumenti ya Uganda ng'amalwaliro gali bubi, ng'amasomero gali bubi, ng'enguudo ziri bubi, bakwata biliyoni 3 ne bagamba tuziwadde bayimbi. Kati balina programu yonna ne kubanga baagala bacriminalizinga, baagala bazikozese bubi, buli omu bamufuneko akakwate. Nga bwe bakikola tibayinza n'okuttisa omuntu, notta omuntu ne bakufunako akakwate. Buli wogezaako okwogera amazima nga bagamba olina wano fayiro osirika. So bwe batyo bwe babakola, era bonna ne basirika. Abaali boogera amazima tebakyayogera mazima, abayimba ennyimba nga bakyatunuulira amazima nga bwe gali, nga bakyalumirwa abantu ba bulijjo abaabawagira, tebakyabyogerako. Ne kigenda bwe kityo ne baba reducing. Nagamba abayimbi nti muli b'amaanyi nnyo, muli bagezi nnyo, naye omuntu yenna bw'akugula n'akusasula obeere musiru, amagezi go gaba tegakyakugasa. Kakati ekyo kye bakoze bannabitone, okubasasula, okulekeraawo okukozesa obwongo bwabwe. Nabalabula ne mbagamba bano abantu bagenda bafuula basabiriza, baagala bafuula basabiriza, ne mujja kumaliriza nga babakyawaganyiza n'abantu ababawagira kubanga bali banyigiriza abantu bamu. Naye gwe omuyimbi baadde bakwagala bakuwagira kubanga oyimba ku bibaluma, kubanga gwe eddoboozi lyabwe, naye kati ofuuse eddoboozi ly'oyo anyigiriza. Bangi ne bagamba nti ndi mu byabufuzi. abala nembayo nembagamba kyemwetaaga lyetteeka eriba protecting copyright law. Era nensindika Dr. Hilderman ne mugamba genda mu parliament opresenting etteeka erya copyright na representing naye abayimbi nga babagambe ko etteeka lya copyright nti affe tetwagala byabufuzi ate bwe babayita nti mujje tubawe sente z'omusolo nga bannabyabufuzi babayise nga bagamba kati muteeke mu budget. Ne weebuuza nti kati ani abuzaabuzaani? Olunaku lwa leero abayimbi babakkakanyiza, babanafuyiza, babafudde basabiriza, babafudde ekisekererwa, babamazeemu ekitiibwa. Omusajja adda wali tamanyi yadde okuyimba nooti emu naye ategerera industry kubanga muganda wa General Museveni, kubanga ayina emmundu, kubanga yabayita n'abawaayo obumpwankimpwanki nabagerera olugero ne mbagamba ndi gye buvuddeko mu Russia waalingawo nakyemalira eyali ayogera ne basajja be n'akwata enkoko n'agikongola nga namu. Omanyi obulumi obwo bwe yamala ogikongola ng'enkoko ekaaba yonna ejjudde omusaayi bagikongodde n'amaana agisuulaawo n'akwatayo obuweke bwakasooli n'atandika ogisuulira awo enkoko kubanga talina kyakola n'etandika omugoberera kubeerondalonda ku kasooli. Kaakati ne bano bwe batyo babakola tibabanyigiriza nnyo babagyeko obugagga bwammwe babagyeko eddembe lyammwe babagyeko amaanyi gammwe kati ate babasuulira obumpwankimpwanki nammwe mubagoberera mulinga enkoko enkongole. Ekyo kikyamu nnyo. Kyanumye nnyo nga ndaba bavoola omusajja gwe twakola tuwa ekitiibwa Ragadi naye nga yenna ayenjebuse tekyalina kitiibwa kubanga bwe yasalawo bw'ati. Naye ndaba nga bavoola omuyimbi munnange Mulangira Ssuuna twayimbanga naye ali very talented producer, very talented muyimbi singer. Naye nabagamba nti bw'otolaba value gy'olina bajja gikwambula era walabye mwe bajja kibamalamu era bajja bafuula babeega otuuke ng'oli muyimbi w'amaanyi nnyo naye nga tosobola na kweyamba, nga tosobola kwetaasa, nga tosobola kwebezaawo. Ensi egyo Uganda gye mwagala okaddiiramu, ensi ye Uganda ba artist abato gye balina okaddiiramu. Industry eno yali nnungi nnyo okusinga wano, yali egaba ssente nga ne bw'oba toyimbye. Naye waliwo ensonga lwaki etteeka ly'ebitone copyright law, etteeka ly'ebiyiiye copyright law, waliwo ensonga lwaki tebaagala liyisibwe kubanga lijja ba protectinga, lijja ba w'amaanyi, lijja bafuula powerful. Naye temubiwulira bataata ne bamaama, temubiwulira munnange. So bagamba bino kubanga biva ku mutima, kubanga baagala. I'm telling you this because I understand you, because I feel you, because I am one of you. Those people despise you. Babanyoma, babalabanga bafala era bakulabanga bakozesa gokakanye industry bagamba ye kimaliriza kati nakyo mu kisuula eri bwe batyo bagenda basuula mu kasasiro nga bwe basuddeyo abalala bonna kiri eri mmwe okutegeera oba obutategeera. Ate temugamba nti mbavumi babulidde mazima kuba ndi muganda wammwe. Mukama ababeere mwaka guno ogujja nga mulowooza ebinaabayamba, nga mulowooza ebinaayamba industry kuba si mmwe musembeeyo ate mugenda kubeera bannabitone. Kyandibadde kirungi nnyo ne mukaddiira mu industry ng'eba benefitinga kubanga olaba bafuula babeeka kati nga muli bato nga mukyali basita, mukuba akafaananyi nga temukyali basita. Mukama abeere nammwe.
Mu luzungu
Sijja kujja mu luzungu. Bwe nabyogera mu luzungu bangi bajja kulowooza mbavumye kati byogedde mu Luganda kati gwe zeemu mu luzungu. Simanyi ekyo kitadde ku kamera. Mwebale nnyo bannange, Mukama abeere.
Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi Wine is the end of year 2024 message to Ugandans, musicians, everyone. Mainly is focusing on General Museveni and his son, urging him to take his son for rehabilitation because he is dying.